Siche is in Likud Siches, Chelik Zion for Pirkei Avos, Perek Shlishi, because this is the Perek of this week. And the Rebbe stellt sich on the Mishnah, Reb Chanina is going to Kayan in Meimer, Chanina, the second in command, the deputy Kayan Gadol, he says, Have mispalo b'shloim mishal malchus, you should daven for the safety, for the welfare of the government, of the kingdom. If not for the being a people having a government and having fear of the government of the kingship of the king, a man would swallow alive his friend. I'll read the whole Mishnah inside because it's negayah. And I'll read the Mishnah from the Pirkei Avos. If Chanin is going to Kayan in Eimer, what the Rebbe just said, you should daven with the shalom of the malchus, because if not for the mirah, if not for that fear, people would swallow a person would swallow his friend alive. Then it continues. Two people who sit and there's no words of Torah amongst them. It's a meishav leitzim. Meishav leitzim means it's a gathering of scoffers. In quotes a pasuk, if two people are sitting and they do have between them divrei Torah, the Shekhinah rests among them. And then later the Mishnah continues, which will also be negated to the Sikha. But we're starting off with this Mishnah that the Chanin Maskan Kayanim said that they should daven for the welfare of the Malchus, because if not for people being afraid of the Malchus, people would swallow each other alive. The Rebbe says, daven first thing we have to understand. Chazal say, the Gemara says this in Baba Kama, that if you want to be a Chosid, you should fulfill what it says in Pirkei Avos. This means to say, the Mesicht Avos besteht für Mila de Chassiduse. Mesicht Avos contains words of Chassidus. What does it mean, words of Chassidus? When Azel Chan Hoges was means in Zay nit mechuyi mitzad adin, no medav Zay to mitzad Chassidus tapnim sheratin. Chassidus means when you do something beyond the letter of the law, beyond the obligation of the halacha. That's Chassidus. So it says, if you want to be a Chassid, if you want to know what to do, lifnim sheratin, beyond the requirement of the law, you should learn Pirkei Avos. It comes out that Pirkei Avos is not telling you halachas. Pirkei Avos tells you things which are beyond the halach, but not halachas. And the Rebbe gives an example where we see that. Al derech v'diro in the Erste Mishnah from the Perek, like the lesson in the first Mishnah of this Perek Shlishi. First Mishnah says, you should look into, meditate or look into three things. If you look into these three things, you will not come to do an Aveira. Which means that sure Sardin is Mechayev Norad reads only on the Aveira Bepel. If you're going to go up the halacha obligates you not to do the Aveira itself. And if them is Meisiv the Mishnah and Hoge Chasidusis, comes the Mishnah and adds a Hanoge behavior which is beyond that of Chasidus. Staying in the matzah for Yiras Achet. Not only you shouldn't do the Aveira, you should always be in a matzah being afraid to do the Aveira. And if you have that feeling, not only you will not do the Aveira, you'll not even come close to doing Aveira. If you look into these three things, you will not come to it. In other words, there's something before. The halach is don't do the Aveira. Comes to do the don't do it. He was saying before that, have Yirah Shamayim, think about these three things, and even before that, you will not even come to the possibility of doing an Aveira. So what do we see from here? That what Pirkei Avos tells us is not a halacha. It tells us beyond the halacha. But this lesson, that you should daven for the welfare of the malchus, it's not connected to midas chassidus, something extra. Other tzazhiras lefnim yeshura sardin, or something to be careful beyond the letter of the law. Adarabe, on the contrary, to make sure that you don't have this chayim bloya to swallow someone else alive is muchrech al pitzivuim hachi chamurim b'Torah. That's part of the very strict vedas in the Torah. Poshup Shab, what does it mean that you shouldn't swallow someone alive? Swallow someone alive means you will hurt somebody, you will kill the other person, you'll get rid of him. It's an expression, you will swallow him alive. You might steal from him, you might hurt him. So if we're telling us that we have to do things to make sure not to do that, that's halacha, that you can't kill, you can't steal, you can't hurt anybody. That doesn't belong in a sefer like Pirkei Avos, which is Chassidus. And in the Ha'ara, the Rebbe Ha'ara 4-star, the Rebbe says, maybe The midas chassidus is not that you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal. The midas chassidus is that you have to daven to make sure that this doesn't happen. That you shouldn't get hurt and you shouldn't hurt anybody else, or no one should hurt anybody else. That's already not halacha. Where's the halacha that you have to daven for the sholem of the malchus? So the Rebbe says that's also halacha, he says. Because there's a mitzvah says every person has a mitzvah that he should daven for his life. He should daven, he should be healthy, he should daven, he should be safe. You have to daven for that. The mitzvah of tefillah is to daven for all your needs. That's a mitzvah from the Torah. A chiyuv to daven for your needs. So to be careful, to make sure that you're alive and make sure that you're healthy, make sure nothing happens to you, that's part of the needs of a person. So obviously you have to daven for that. So if one of the ways to daven for your life is to daven for the shalom of the malchus, so that you're obligated minat Torah. So that's not minach chassidus. So again, that's a halacha. But Pirkei Avos is midas chassidus. So why is this in Pirkei Avos? That's one question. Second question: why is the lashon here? A man would swallow his friend alive. The lashon asirod leposhik nazaf fal is hariga. In such a case like this, the simple lashon would be to kill. The lashon hakosuf, like the pasuk says, ein yiras alakim varguni. Avraham Avinu said that he understood that he's coming to a place where there's no fear of Hashem. They'll kill me. So it says a lashon harguni. So you also should say, if you're not afraid, then you get killed. People could kill each other. Why does it say the lashon swallow each other alive? Or the gzela, or maybe you should use the lashon you would steal from each other. If we're going to say that this means also that people might steal from others or do any other damage of monetary damage, should have said it. That you, if not for Shalom Malchus, they wouldn't be afraid of the Malchus. They would steal from each other. But why is it a strange lashon? And it's not only a strange lashon. The Rebbe kvetches the word inyan. It's a different inyan. Swallow someone else alive. That tells you something else. Even though the pashas, when you learn Pshat in the Mishnah, that's what it means to kill each other or steal from each other. But there must be something more here. And the third question: everything in the world depends on Yidden. There's a pasuk that says, the Eibishter gave the world in their heart. Everything depends on Yidden. And that we understand that this idea that you wouldn't be afraid of the Malchus, people would swallow each other alive, is the Eich Chas V'Sholom B'Yidden. Also. Because everything that could be in the world starts by Yidden. The contrary, durch them was Yidden viel Nuis de Yeroe, by the Yidden doing what the Pirkei Avos tells us. That causes that in the world it should be. As there's only that you shouldn't swallow each other alive. So it all starts from Yidden. So the Mishnah is really speaking to Yidden also. That if not for the Mirah of Malchus, not being afraid of the Malchus, even Yidden would swallow each other alive. That's not understood. Yidden sagen, how could you say in the Yidden? That even though there are so many commandments of Hashem, of against doing these things, is when need the made of Malchus, but Ayid eingeschlungen. That if not for being afraid of the Malchus, Ayid would swallow, and whom would he swallow? Nicht Samatzveden. The Lashon is he wouldn't swallow another person. Not even your friend. And we're talking about Yidden, obviously, also, because everything starts from Yidden. So how could you say that this is what would happen if not for Mera Malchus? Especially what type of Yidden are we talking about? We're talking about a Yid was just learning Mesicht Avos. Why is he learning Mesicht Avos? Like the Gemara says, the Gemara says, if you want to be a chassid, you want to do Lifnei Mishuras Adin, learn Pirkei Avos. So anybody that's going to learn Pirkei Avos is a person that wants to do even more than the halacha. So a person like that is learning Pirkei Avos. So we're telling him, we're making sure to him, that you should have for the welfare of the Malchus, as only you shouldn't swallow your friend. How could you say that that this is possible to happen when it's against the Torah, especially to such a person who does everything what it says in the Torah, because he's already holding at the level that he wants to do more. So obviously he's going to do this. So why do you have to tell this to him? Then the Rebbe says, after this maimer that you just said before, that you should daven shlei mishal malchus, because if not, people will follow each other alive. Steht in der Mishnah. It says in the same Mishnah. It says like this. Like I mentioned before, if two people sit and there is no Torah amongst them, that's a gathering of leitzim, scoffers. If two people sit and there is Torah amongst them, Shechina is there. And it's all written in the same Mishnah as what we said before. Now, I said many times that the Fernanda term for Mishnayos is bediuk, that the way the Mishnayos are divided, which things go together or which are separate, is bediuk, is exact. This how you put the numbers and where the onim of Mishnayos is not only stam because it's Torah, everything is exact. There must be a good reason for it. It's negeya to a halacha. What's the halacha? Halacha l'maisa, the actual halacha. The name is mekadesh asrisha amnasha nidei l'shanis. The din is you could give kedushin to a woman and marry her and give her kedushin, and you could make any condition you want. We don't do that nowadays, obviously. But up din, you can make a condition. If she keeps the condition is met, then the kedushin she's married. If not, she's not. What happens? It says if someone says I'm giving you kedushin amanas, I know l'shanis. What does l'shanis mean? I know mishnayis, which means that the kedushin are in the mishnayis or mishnayis. They gave the kedushin on condition that he knows mishnayis. So the svara is that you have to know, since he said, I know Mishnayis, has to be more than one. So there's a svara that you have to know, it says in the poskim, at least 3 Mishnahs. So before that yet, so you have to know 3 Mishnayis. So it depends where the number is. So sometimes you have bigger Mishnayis, smaller Mishnayis. So whatever the number is, that makes it 1 Mishnah. So if you have the same 2 inyonim in the same Mishnah, it's considered 1. If you have those same 2 inyonim with 2 separate Mishnayos, then it's considered 2. If he said, I'm Mekadesh on condition that I know Mishnayos, and you have to know 3 Mishnayos, so if the 2 things are in the same Mishnah, it's considered only as 1, so you have to know 2 more. If they're separate, then you only need 1 more, because this is 2. Now, Yashem, some even say, as Eich Tzulubdema, that Alter Rebbe Rangishtel, the Mesicht Avos, and say Siddur. And this is another reason why the Alter Rebbe put Pirkei Avos in the Siddur. Pirkei Avos that we have is in the Siddur. Why did the Alter Rebbe have to put it in the Alter Rebbe? Because it's just written that between Pesach and Shavuos or a whole summer, we say we learn Pirkei Avos. Where's Pirkei Avos? Take a Gemara, you'll find Pirkei Avos. Take a Mishnah, you'll find Pirkei Avos. The Alter Rebbe actually put it in. So one of the reasons it said is to wissen dem Eifem Chalukas HaMishnayis, Pasha, to know how the Mishnayis is divided, because there are different girsas. And the Alter Rebbe chose the proper girsa, which Mishnayis is, and it's Negei L'Halacha. So it comes out that the way the Mishnayis are divided is Negei L'Halacha. And therefore, it would make sense that if you have 2 Mishnayis, 2 halachas, or 2 halachas, 2 inyonim in the same Mishnah, since everything is b'diuk, they must have a connection. Because if they wouldn't have a connection, they would be separate Mishnayis. If it move, not understand. What's the continuation, the connection between the second part of the same Mishnah? If 2 people sit and don't learn Torah, it's Meshav Leitzim. If they do learn Torah, the Shechina is there. What is the connection from that to the beginning, to the first part of the same Mishnah? So Maimer, so this saying that Mispal B'Shleima, that you should daven for the Shalom of the Malchus. But the first thing is the Beide name Mishnah, they're both in the same Mishnah. The Chura Zetzich nit ken keshet, we don't see a connection between the 2. Adarabe, on the contrary, this word is Mechayev, but the Maimer at Ashaychus and darf zugestellt werden zu der weiterdicke Mishnah. If anything, this should be connected to the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah says, if Shimon says, Gimel Sheochlu, if 3 people sit together by a meal and eat, and they didn't say Divrei Torah, so the Mishnah continues, it's as if they ate from Korbanos, from the Avodah Zarah, etc., etc. So that talks about the importance of learning Torah. There we see the importance of learning Torah when you're in a group. And the problem of if you are a group and you don't learn Torah. So the second part of our Mishnah would fit to that Mishnah. Because the second part of our Mishnah is that when 3 people are together, it doesn't speak about eating, but people sitting together, you should have different Torah. The next piece says when people are eating together, they should have different Torah. So that fits together, that makes sense. But to say the senior that the people sit 2 people sit and they don't have different Torah, so then it's Meshav Leitzim. What is that connected to? The senior of Daven B'Shlei Mishal Malchus. So again, the pshat is because anything that's written in the same Mishnah has to have a connection. It's similar to the Rebbe explained over in the Gei Rasha, and we know before from say that in Gei Rasha Tosfos that the Rasha writes a heading, Dibra Maschel, the beginning quotes a word for public. Whatever Rasha says in that piece has a connection. Sometimes we find that Rasha quotes a word from Pasuk, and then he says a few things in that same piece. So we have to understand what's the connection. Because many times when Rasha wants to say a few separate things on the same words, he will repeat the heading again to make it into a separate piece. If it's all in the same piece, then we know that he must have a connection. And the Rebbe always would explain the same thing. I feel in Teisus. The Meforshim explains Teisus has a Dibur HaMaskal has a heading and says a few things. They all have to have a connection. Now, not always do we know what the connection is. We try to know, but we understand that if it's one piece, because we see Teisus many times quotes from the Gemara, the same Loshen has one piece and says something, and then quotes again another piece because they're not connected. They're two different yonim. So here, if it's in the same Mishnah, there must be a connection. What is the connection? So the Rebbe said the beer and then the explanation is like this. The Balde Mesicht Avos and Halt Milatich Sanusa. Since, as we said before, Mesicht Avos contains Milatich Sanusa things which are beyond the halacha. Wie der Mond eben, like I said before, the says says das eine Heroes Faraiden was is ganz and abgehit and limitaten kina mitzvahs. We're talking about, this is talking to a person that is complete and careful in learning Torah and doing the mitzvahs. When he felt nor the anhoget mitzvahs, all is missing extra. What should he do more than what the halacha requires? That's the person who's learning Pirkei Avos. The Meila Posher, so the Rebbe says it's clear. Says need dokanor So this is not the place to tell a person not to do exela, not to steal from another eat. Certainly you don't need here telling the person who's learning Pirkei Avos that he shouldn't take the life of another person. So right away we know why it doesn't say the Loshen that if not for the Malchus, you would kill somebody. You would steal from somebody, because the way people we're talking to in Pirkei Avos is not a person you have to tell them don't steal and don't kill. That's for sure. So this is not the place. The diuk is do dafke. So b'meila, what it says here is dafke b'diuk, not he would kill a person. Ishas re'eyu chayim bloy. He would swallow him alive. What does that mean? We're not talking that he wants to take away the touch effect, the life of a Yid, another Yid, or the property of another Yid. That's not at all what he's talking about here. So is nor chaim bloy. We're talking about a person that all he wants is to swallow in the other person. That's what it means, swallow. That's why it doesn't say the Lashon kill, swallow in. At the Leben, when we say the light, he should swallow him alive, means that the Leben, the Metzias, and the Meisim, for Zweitens, sein eingeschlungen in sein Metzias. That the life of that other person, and includes everything the other person does, should be swallowed in his Metzias. Which means, this is the way the Rebbe will explain, this is a big balgaive. A person could say, I want that the other person should be bottled to me. Not Chas V'Shalom hurt him, but he should be bottled to me. Lopomim is adarabben. That sometimes is punkt verkehrt opposite. The miles was hot. We're saying here, we're talking about a person who has miles. So the question was, if he has miles, why would he want to kill someone? So we're saying not killing. Because he has the miles, that's why he might feel that the other person should be swallowed into him. Because the miles was hot, the miles that he has, I say it's ganz in limit Torah and is abgedit mitzvahs now, because he's complete in learning Torah and he's careful with mitzvahs. And on the other side he sees that there viel chaseinis one zweiten. And he looks at another Yid and he says that person is full of chaseinis. That person doesn't have milas. He has all kinds of faults. The fact that Yender is aish poshet and Yidin Torah, especially if that person is very simple in learning Torah, in our simple words, Aram Horetz doesn't know how to learn. Maybe that person is not so careful in doing mitzvahs. Bringing them to, so these milas that he has compared to the other person, that brings him. It forces him to come to a conclusion that that person should bottle to him. And not only that, you could look at it this way. It's a merit for him. It's a mila for him to be bottled to me, to be swallowed into my metzias. Because after all, I'm special. And he's not, so let him be swallowed in by me. So that's a possibility for a person who learns Torah and does mitzvahs properly, and still should feel that way. In order to make sure that this doesn't happen, it's not enough if you'll explain to him that this shouldn't be. For Madara, because you look at the opposite. If you look through Seichel, was we're talking about a good person. So he's not a fool. He's not a Rosh. He's not a Gasaruch with a grubber person. He's a fine person. Not Chas V'Sholem. So he's looking with the proper seichel. He's not looking for stupidity. He's doa not for azat taina. If you look with seichel, with proper seichel, there is a place for such a taina that he has. He wants to swallow into the other person. Why? Because he looks at himself, after all, I'm great in Torah, I'm great in doing mitzvahs. In that side, when Reyehu is Gorvait from their Madrige. On the other hand, his friend is far from this level. Und der Cheshman is emes und is gehalten leiten derech und was von Torah. And this Cheshman is true according to the Torah, according to the Cheshmans of Torah. If this guy doesn't learn like you, so you're better than him. If he doesn't do mitzvahs properly like you are better than him. There's no question about it. Especially if that person needs to come to him to get lessons in how to learn or get lessons how to do mitzvahs. So that person needs him. So certainly that person should become bottle, and that makes a lot of sense. And the River, therefore, I feel noch the ganze, and I'll skip the parentheses for a second. After the ganze hasbaru cheshman. So therefore, after as much as you'll try to explain, you make a cheshman. But we bald nor seichel dike, but it's only a cheshman that comes from seichel, as a darf sich finden anders. You're going to tell him a cheshman, but that's a seichel dike cheshman. It should go different than he's doing. That in a chalzit can optreten for sein hanoche. Person will not be removed from what's in his mind. As eyo does ein bottle and balloon sein metzias, his friend has to be bottle and swallow in his metzias. So what can we do to make it he shouldn't feel that way? The eitzitz or pale sein pasich shlilas hanalke the boy. If a person should pale on himself, we should not be the way we saying before. We see mekayim on the Yerov from the Mishnah. So to fulfill what the Mishnah says, havei mispalo b'shleima shel malchus, daven for the welfare of the malchus. Was durch them, but by him direct when they made of a melech malchus amlochem hakadosh baruch hu. If he davens for the malchus and realizes the importance of the malchus down here of the government of the king, and he's going to bring about the fear he has for the malchus, and the hergish hayira the kechte pels are by him. So the hergish, this feeling that he thinks about the malchus, will cause him to have the made of a melech malchus amlochem. It will awaken him. If he has a fear, the Rebbe will explain it soon. If he has the fear of the Malchus, this will deeper awaken with him to have the fear of the Malchus of the Eibishter. So this Hergish he'll have with the fear of Malchus of the Eibishter has the Keach, has the power to pale sein by him, to affect him. As soll sich nicht halten, he shouldn't hold himself big like an and there was an explanation why, if you understand the Malchus, and you have fear for the Malchus, that'll make you have fear for the Eibishter, and B'meila you won't have this guy that we just spoke about. So the explanation is like this. The Chazal tell us that the Malchus down here, the kingship, the kingdom down here, is similar to the Malchus in Shemayim, which is the Eibishter. We know that. What does this mean? What's the similarity, or what's the connection between a Malchus, the king down here, to the Melech Malchus, to the Eibishter? So that it's known, and brings it from Zayar and other places. The fact that there's a concept of a king down here, that's a hishtalshelis that comes down from the fact that there is the king all the way on top. The king down here, his root, his source is the sar. You know, it says that every country, every melech has a sar, a malach in Shamayim that is on top of him, that, so to speak, controls him. So the king down here is a ishtalshelis. It comes down from that malach l'mayla. Und der sherish from them sar, and where is the sherish, the root, the source of that malach, that sar? He's not hecher darga. It's from a higher darga over him. When I say hecher goes higher, right? Each one comes from higher and higher. The Kapostik says goveya mal goveya shemer. One is on top of the other, higher and higher. These to malchus melech malcham loch makadosh baruch hu, till the kingship of the Eibishter. So basically, that's the pshat in the Gemara. The Malchus down here is me'ein the Malchus of Shemayim, means that the fact there's a Melech down here is a hishtalshelis, starts off all the way Melech Malcham Lochem, but Eibishter made it come down to lower level, till it comes down to Melech down here. Fullness verstanden, that we understand the B'shas as Yidosh Shlema Shemalchus of Pashtus. So when you have the Sholem, peace, the completion, the word Sholem has two meanings, it means peace and also the completion of the Malchus down here. As Malchus Adara Hershmet Hashlemus, that the Malchus down here controls completely the way it's supposed to, is that Emes Atam to them. What's the real reason why that happens? Well, in Malchus Adara because in the Malchus down here expresses itself, it's a Sherish, its source, which is the Malchus of the Eibishter, the Malchus of heaven, Malchus Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Malchus of the Eibishter, to aggress it and take it. When that's stronger, so down here it comes down stronger. So when you see the melech down here is strong and does his job, That's because it all starts from the Sherish, so Lamaila is stronger. So the Malchus Shemayim, the Malchus of the Eibishter is stronger. Und therefore, when Ayid was halchim by Milatich Sedusa, therefore Ayid was holding the level that he's looking for Milatich Sedusa, something more than the simple halacha. A person like that is a pretty high madrege. So he sees everything, the truth of it. He sees deeper into it than what it looks superficially. He's ein Tefillah in the meaning von Shleimus Malchus. So when he davens for the Shleimus, for the Sholem of the Malchus down here, feels that in them. So a Yid who's in the higher madrege feels in it. These mit Mukhsh, not only he feels, imagines, he really, as if almost he sees it. So when he's davening the Shleimus Shel Malchus down here, he's bemis trying to be mamshich or trying to feel that the Malchus of David should be stronger. The Mele ved by in this Eire, durch Malchus of the Are, the Herke Shameir, from Melech Machem Lakadosh Baruch Hu. So when he awakens by davening for the Shleimus of the Malchus, which brings Yireh, so when he gets, by feeling the Shleimus of the Malchus down here, he gets a fear, really this is, that it brings out the way it's Malchus by David, the fear to the Eibush, the Herkish of Meire for the Eibush, for Melech Malchem Loch Makadosh Baruch Hu. When the Etzem Yireh for the Eibush, and this that he has now more fear for the Eibush, the Peilt as by him vet nichne eich deis nases, causes that his Gaive, his feeling higher, gets nichne means it comes down. Sein Grace halten sich gab zweiten. The fact that he holds himself bigger than somebody else. Why? Well, Malchus is since now he has more Yireh for the Malchus of the Eibush. And by the Eibishter it says, Hashova Mashvakot Megodel, we say the Machzer in Kippur, is Rosh in Kippur, Chema means Shashova Mashvakot Megodel, that means by the Eibishter everyone is equal. The Godel Shebekdelim is the Gamre Niteves Mokin, Punkte the Kotten Shebektan, the Gabba the Eibishter, the greatest person, no matter who he is not more important, not greater than the smallest person. So there is no difference, the greater and the smaller one. The greater and the smaller one are different only in this world, compared. But the Eibishter is beyond be'ein arech. It's like saying one legabe a million is much more than one. But legabe blig vul, legabe infinity, 1 in a billion are exactly the same. They're exact. Not only it's much more beyond, it's exactly the same. Why? Because this is blig vul. This is be'ein arech. So here legabe the Eibishter is all the same. So when you get the Yireh to the Eibishter and you start feeling close to the singing of the Eibishter, then how could you think I'm greater than him and he has to be mortal to me? So that's what the Mishnah means. Because the Rebbe learned throughout the Mishnah that you have to in the Spal Shleim Shel Malchus, because that'll be me'ered by you the Malchus Shemayim, and b'meila you will not swallow in another person. Not Chas Shalom talking about killing or something like that, but not swallowing wanting to be brought to you. But the Rebbe says the Yitzhahara is over an Umen is ein Arbeiter opfin the Mensch von Derech HaYosher. The Yitzhahara works very hard, and he's a Umen. He's a craftsman. He's perfect. He knows how to do. He knows his job. So he has all kinds of ideas how he works very hard to bring down the person from the straight way. The Rebbe is nicht genug, but das was allein is eine eigene Keches, wird sich muss bringen sein in die Schleimische Malchus. So it's not enough that the person on his own will think about the Schleimo of the Malchus, and b'meila as Malchus the Aris kem Malchus in the Kirchen. That's what you could do. If the whole idea is to realize the Malchus, the Matel, the Malchus, the Maim, you be connected to the Malchus, the Maila, so all you have to do is sit down and think about it. So we should tell you, think about what the Malchus down here is. That really is a Ishtalshus Malchus Maila. And you think about that, and you get the feeling of the Malchus down here, it'll bring you to have a Yireh to the Malchus. That's all. But that's, so why do we need to be mispalel? Why does it say be mispalel, daven for this? It should say be misbeinen in what Malchus the Are is, what the Malchus down here is. But it says, oh, ad noch a gewisses man, all these bonen super hands to the body. If that's all you're going to do, you're going to think about it. So after a while, it'll stop working. So the Yetzirah will find all kinds of ways. These the made of it then abgeschwacht. So the fear you have will become weaker, and then gone to this battle and come battle completely. So it's not enough that you just will think to yourself. The father is mutlish in the Reiro have a mispalo b'shleim b'shabbat. That's what it says. Daven for the shalom of the Malchus. Nicht verlassen sich nur auf der Risbonnes und tegen the Kirches. Don't rely on the fact that you will contemplate on this with your own power, with your own energy, and you'll do that. You have to do this, but in the form of davening. So tfilaton und nuisbeten, you have to daven and beg Hashem. Der Eibishter soll ihm helfen, betuve bechaz de chesed chinam dem should help you with his goodness, with his kindness, and kindness that you might not even deserve. But the Eibishter is kind. If Hashem doesn't help you, you'll never be able to do it. Now. So whatever we said before is not enough that you'll just think about it, but you have to think about it and ask the Eibishter to help you that this will happen. These are durch the Malchus Adara, so a Makke sein in der Film, the Eibishter's Malchus. Beg the Eibishter that by understanding the Malchus of down here, you will come to understand the Malchus of Eibishter and bring the Yira to the Malchus of Eibishter. You have to ask the Eibishter for that. And therefore, the Mishnah says, have a mispal. But the whole idea is that this will bring you that you will not swallow in the other person because there's no other way. Because with Satseichel, you feel you're special and the other one should be bottled, you should be swallowed into you. And mit wird sein movement der weiterliche Hemshech for the Mishnah. This will explain the continuation, the connection to the next part of the Mishnah. That you have to have two people that are sitting, they have to have Torah. If they don't, it's Meshach Bleitzim. If they do, then the Shechin is there. But we're talking about two people sitting and have to have Torah amongst them. What is the pshat here? So this is what the Rebbe learns, an interesting pshat. The richtige Beweis as der Odo was halt by military, that is the true proof that this person, and we're talking about a person that's holding at the level that he wants to have military chsidus, he wants to have if nimishur as a din, more than the din. Nor than we are gelernt Torah get the boy in Zohar mitzvahs. The person that's finally learning Torah where he's supposed to and does mitzvahs he's supposed to, and he wants more. He wants military chsidus. But by him is mavatl when sein gefühl von isnas and gavadam zuos. What's the proof that this person actually was mavatl, got rid of this gaiva that he has and feeling higher than somebody else, wanting to swallow him? So where do you see that? He's in dem was eich sein lernen Torah is na even for shnaim sheyeshvin. That when you learn Torah, that's the next part of the Mishnah. He feels that there are two people learning, and the Rebbe will explain what that means. But that's the hemshech. After he says daven for meroi shamalchus, because through that you will get the made of the melech macham lochim, and you will not try to swallow in somebody else. How will we know that's so? If when you sit down to learn, you feel that you are two people learning. And the Rebbe Habir explanation like this. The real Metzias of a person who learns Torah, and we're talking Pirkei Avos is a person who before he even got to Pirkei Avos, he's already learning Torah. What's his main Metzias? Is those gufas and Yitzchak Torah. His main Metzias is Torah. We're talking about a person like that, pretty high madrege. His whole Metzias is learning Torah. All other things are only secondary things. With the Pasuk says to show that all other things are not important. The main thing is Torah. The Pasuk says like this: a chacham, a smart person, should not praise himself with his chachma. A strong person should not praise himself with his strength. A rich man with his riches. These are three things. Don't be so proud about that, because that changes. It could change. You could be rich now, tomorrow you're not. You could be smart, tomorrow you're not smart. You could be strong, tomorrow you're not strong. So the pasuk continues. What should be your real praise? Which means something that will always continue. Learning about me, learning Torah. Torah is Torah is going to be forever. Nitzchis, Torah is eternal. Like there's a pasuk, like we say, this is our life. And then it says, the Rebbe stresses the word in the length of our days, which means not only our life for now. That's continuous. Eirich is the length of our life. This is length of our days. I mean, this is nitzchi. Like the Chachamim say, I leave all work in the world. I only teach my son Torah, but narusa b'skanusa, because any other type of job I teach my son, when he gets older, he won't be able to do it. But I'll teach him Torah, which stays with him in narusa when he's young, b'skanusa when he's old. Torah is mitzvah. So the main thing by this person who's learning Pirkei Avos is Torah. That's his aim at Siyas. Yibaldas Torah is the emes mahus from the Mesa Torah. Since Torah is the real mahus, what this person is learning Torah is moving from that to understand that the bittul for zay mahus and Metzias. So if you want to know if he was mavatal is Metzias, before we're talking about he could have a Metzias of his own wanting to swallow somebody else. What we need here is to show that the mavatal is Metzias. What will prove he's mavatal is Metzias? So you have to look at the main thing that he's involved in. How is he doing there? What's the main thing he's involved in? In Torah. So you have to look when you learn Torah. So to see whether he's mavatal is mahus or Metzias, you could test it, you could measure it. What kind of bittul he has when he's learning Torah? Und das ist der Diuk Shnayim Sheishun. That's the shot in the Mishnah, the Diuk in the next part of the Mishnah. If two people should be learning Torah. Kozman that the lamed is Markish Azeris, Ein Nebas Yeshiv with Torah, as long as he feels that he's the one that's learning Torah. He's learning one. What he's learning one? He is the one that's learning Torah. He looks at himself. I'm the one that's learning Torah. I come up with new ideas in Torah. He's ein Lerner nicht beten for Shnaim Sheishvin. Then he's not learning like two. Shnaim Sheishvin means two equal. Two are learning on the same level. If he thinks that he's more Metzias, so he's not Shnaim Sheishvin based on the Torah, then what is it? Then he is one that's learning. Nicht wie zwei was lernen sitzen sich bei gleich. It's not like two people who are learning equally. In a gleicher yeshiva. Yeshiva doesn't mean yeshiva. Yeshiva is sitting. We're sitting equally and we're both learning. Yibalder hält sich for a Rosh Yeshiva, since he holds Rosh Yeshiva and Rebbe, means he says Rosh Yeshiva, he's the head. So he's the top guy in the yeshiva, but here it means also in the sitting, when we're sitting together, I'm the real guy, the top guy. You're second to me. Und dem Zweiten, and he looks at the second guy, the other one is like a student. And he also knows which line, because in the time of the Gemara, the lines that they were sitting, the rows they were sitting, depended on their level. So if you sat in the first row, you were higher level. So he looks at this guy's a Talmud, and he's sitting in the 10th row. So certainly I'm the head guy, and he's the lower guy. And it expresses itself in his learning Torah. Daf given that his bottle mit anemes, when he's truly bottled completely. Then when you're learning with your friend, and you're taka greater, but in truth, you look at yourself as if you're equal. Ke'echot, together. Not feeling the mile of not to feel the mile of one against the other. That's what the Mishnah says. If two people sit and learn together, then will Shechina Shruya, the Shechina is there. What does the Shechina mean? Shechina is the Giluf of Malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Shechina is the revelation of the Malchus of Hashem. So we said before, what we're trying to do here, this guy should get the feeling of the Malchus of Hashem. So when do you know that he got it? He reached it. If he learns Torah in the forum where Shechina Shruya, and that is when they're learning together. The Shnaim Sheyeshvin. Okay, Yedua, and as it's known, and Rebbe quotes from Tanya, says Tanya Peivov, the Shas Hayit Peil Bazir Dam Bittel. The person does accomplish this Bittel. We said before, through davening for the Shalom of the Malchus. That he is in a level of that they're both equal. He gets that feeling that when they learn, they're equal. Then the Shechina Shruya. Then the Shechina rests. It means it's vet Nizgala, the Pchina of Malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Malchus HaDerikiyah. Then this Nizgala reveals the Shechina, which is Malchus. We know Shechina is, Tanya Shechina is Malchus, so it's Malchus of the Eibishter. Vidos is Mitzad Atzmai. Then you get the Shechina the way the Shechina is on its own. Neither nor durch the Slapshes Malchus HaDara. Till now we're saying you think about the Malchus of this world, and then you get to reach, to see the source of it. But the way you get to it is through coming down a Ishtal Shalish to the Malchus of down here. But eventually what happens? If you reach the level at in Torah, they're both, you feel equal, and you don't feel your Gaiva, you don't feel your Metzias, then you get to connect Shechina Shruya, the Shechina, the way the Malchus is above, comes directly to you. Then the Shlema Seir of Bittul to Lakus with us in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then you get the Bittul to the Eibishter. And the Yira is complete the way it's not Hashem. The way it's till then, you get it also, but you get it through the Slapshes. You see the Malchus down here, and you have the Yira. That brings you to understand it's from the Eibishter. So you get it, but it's all through Slapshes. It gets dressed into the Malchus down here. But this will bring you to the true Yira. And the Rebbe says, say that in Posik, this will explain also the Seder and the Posik. When the Posik late, the Gemara, the Pirkei Avos brings, when we said before, that he says like this, that if you have two people sitting and learning Torah, the Shechina is there. And it says a Posik, Shenamar, that says, so he said the Posik was bringing sich in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah said the Posik, Oz nidberu yirei Hashem ishel reyu. As the Posik it says, that the people who fear Hashem will talk to each other, man to his friend. Vayakshav Hashem, Vayishma Hashem will listen. Vayikos the Sefer Zikarim L'Fomev, and the Eibishter will write it down. Vayirei Hashem, for those who fear Hashem, Ulechesh V'Shmei, those that count His name, etc., etc. So this is a posik to show that when you learn Torah, this happens. The Eibishter listens. But the question is, We're talking about two people sitting and have divrei Torah, learning Torah. So why does we bring a pasuk which refers to them as Yirei Hashem, those that fear Hashem? We should say those that should be pasuk as nidberu learning Torah. Why is bring Yirei Hashem? First of all, the title doesn't seem to fit here. But besides that, what's important to give him this title? But the answer the Rebbe says is dos was yesh b'neim divrei Torah, when the Torah is amongst them, which means that amongst them, between them, that they're equal. Peil tashchina shroy b'neim is the farba the nidbaru is ma'etim fir Hashem. How does that bring the shchina? Because this brings you to have the yira. We said before, this all is the way to bring the yira of the malchus of the Eibishter. So, and when do you know that you have the yira malchus of the Eibishter? When you see that you're not about gaiva and you learn equally. So therefore, when he wants to say that Shnaim Sheyeshim learn Torah, he quotes the passage where it calls them Yirei Hashem. By them, through davening for the Shalom Malchus or anything else that will bring this to be. So the Yireh for Melech Machem HaKadosh Baruch is Na'ifun Goli Nikir V'Nirgesh. The fear for Hashem is revealed and you could recognize it and it's felt. So much so that when they talk to each other, what are they talking about? The pasuk starts Oz Nidbar Yireh Hashem. When they talk to each other, is in Torah. Is Mitzadem V'Zizanyan in the dark of Yireh Hashem Yishlareyu. Why do they talk in Torah in such a way? Because they have this Yireh Shemayim Yireh Hashem Yishlareyu. And the Rebbe that says a play on words. Before we said when you want to swallow somebody in the lotion is Ish Esrei Eyu Chaydlo. Here it says Yireh Hashem Ishel Re'eyu. It's the complete opposite. There you want to mevatel the other person because you're gaiva. And here you have the Yireh Hashem Ishel Re'eyu, that you're equal Ishel Re'eyu, and you have the Yireh Hashem that makes you both equal. And that brings them to the second part of the pasuk. Chesh v'shmei, that you recognize the Eibishter's name, which includes it says that the whole Torah, every word of Torah is the name of Hashem. So when you reach this level, you recognize how everything in Torah is the name of Hashem because you have the proper Yireh Shemayim. And this is what Pirkei Avos says, and this is for somebody who learns Torah, does mitzvahs, and is great, but you have to have this bittul that when you teach, and even though you're teaching your Talmud, and it's talking your Talmud, it's talking lower, is a makabel of yours. But nevertheless, mitzad, the concept of Torah learning, they're both equal. You're learning Torah, his learning Torah, they're both the Torah of Hashem. You understand it better, you understand it less. True, that's mitzad me. But mitzad the Torah itself, the etzim of Torah, they're both equal. And that is milsa the chedusa of this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Shkaf Avos, a gute Nacht.